Thank you, Chairman White and members. It is not customary that I come to testify personally for a bill, unless it's my own bill that I'm laying out. But I'm a proud co-author of this legislation, and I don't have any notes, but I'm just going to speak briefly. I know there's a lot of people here to testify. Just to speak from my heart, why I want and urge this body to pass House Bill 88. George Floyd's brother is here. I never got a chance to meet George Floyd, but I met many people that are symbolic of George Floyd. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I'm African American, no question about it. I have an African American son. I have seen over my life many tragic incidents of unarmed African Americans and minorities that have had incidents with police that was unpleasant. There are many disparities within our criminal justice system that impact African Americans and other people of color. And I want to appeal to your consciousness today. Ms. T. Sophronia, our esteemed chairwoman who has been in this body for over 40 years, she laid out why this bill is so important. But I want to speak from a different angle, from a Christian perspective of why this is so important to me and why I'm here today. You know, one of the principles that guides me is found in Proverbs 31:8-9. And it says, speak out for the one who cannot speak. We know George Floyd is dead. Speak out for the one who cannot speak, for the rights of those who are doomed. Speak out, judge fairly, and defend the rights of oppressed and needy people. That is scripture. That is biblical. All of us have a duty to defend the least of them. You know, Dr. King said it this way: injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We know what happened to George Floyd happened in Minnesota, but he was a Texas native. He was from a community near where I serve in 3rd Ward. He went to Jack Yates High School. He's a Texan. And he was symbolic of what happens all across this country when, as Ms. T said, most officers overwhelmingly are good people that are public servants, just like we are. But they're bad apples in every bunch. Whether it's a police officer, a doctor, a lawyer, a politician, everyone should be held accountable. No one should be above the law. Not the President of the United States, not anybody. And so what this bill simply does is puts into law some much needed mechanisms to ensure that there is a good public policy. You know, I'm going to close because there's so many people here to testify, but I'm reminded of the linchpin behind the civil rights movement. It was an unfortunate, tragic death of Emmett Till, a young man in Money, Mississippi, who was basically lynched. He was tragically killed for allegedly whistling at a white woman. This was during the era of Jim Crow. This was during the era of dark days of our country. But it was the catalyst for the modern day civil rights movement. It led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So something positive came out of his tragic death. I believe that this is a watershed moment in our country, and George Floyd's death was the catalyst, that was the spark of a movement across this country that we haven't seen since the civil rights era, where people came together of good conscience, whites, blacks, Asians, Hispanics, people from Texas, people from all over this country march and all over the world for a symbolism of we want reforms. We want meaningful criminal justice and policing reforms. And I think the time is now. This legislature can do it this session. And I thank Representative Sophronia Thompson, Chairwoman Sophronia Thompson, members of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus. This is our top legislative priority. House Bill 88. This bill means so much to us. And I just want to impress upon you, appeal to your social consciousness. I know there's philosophical differences that we all have. You know, some of us come from conservative districts, and I get that. And you're here to represent your district. But this is not a partisan bill. This is not a bill, as Chairwoman Thompson said, to defund the police. This is about good public policy. And so I urge you to be open as you listen to the testimony today. And let's put aside our political differences and try to do what's best and be on the right side of history. We have a chance to do the right thing, and I urge you to pass House Bill 88. Thank you, Chairman White, for allowing me to say that.
Thank you,
and
sir.
I look forward to seeing what comes out of this bill, and I thank you, Ms. T.